But you know what? I mean, I just had to let her know. I mean, I'm like, there's not much more I can say. If you don't believe me, you don't believe me. And I don't think there's anything I can say to convince you.
As always, I feel like this is probably a big question you might have gotten a lot, but why did you convince Gabby and Rachel to stay when you knew that Susie was the one you loved the most, as you put it?
Yeah, I made that comment, and I did when I said that I felt that way about Susie. But when she left, I realized that like that ship had potentially sailed. And beyond that, just because I loved her the most did not mean I had made a definitive answer that she was the one. And so I do believe everything happens for a reason. And when she left, I said, okay, I have these two incredible women here, and I need to continue to pour into them because this is what apparently exactly needed to happen. So give these women your all and see if maybe you'll end up walking out of here with one of them.
There's a lot of talk, always, but especially with your season, around kind of real world rules versus Bachelor rules. I know you've spoken about that a little bit. And now looking back, is there a moment when the lead or the Bachelor should start thinking maybe in real world rules? And is there a moment you wish you did? Or do you think you owe it to the process to kind of see it through?
That's actually a really good question, because I have struggled with that as far as we had this conversation. I adapted as far as our change. And when I went into the environment and thought, okay, like you've been used to dating one person. Now you're going to date multiple people. So what does that look like to you? How are you going to approach this? And it was uncharted territory. And I did make a major mistake of assuming that, okay, this is how things have operated from what I've heard. I'm sure the women are aware of how these things work here. So maybe it's a little different versus the outside world. But what I came to realize was some of the women had they still had the mindset of, well, and rightfully so. They were like, this is the way I date. I'm dating one person. These women were dating one person. I was dating 30. And so that's where I think there was a contrast. And if I'd have just asked more questions, I would have realized that their mindset was, I'm dating one person. So that's how I'm viewing all of this. I'm not looking at it from an environmental perspective. I'm looking at it from strictly, I'm dating you. And I think more to talking it through, we would have realized that there was maybe a little contrast there that could have been addressed and we could have worked through.
Susie, from your perspective, is there a moment that you wish you maybe would have told Clayton earlier what your expectations were? And do you think that would have changed things?
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking back, I would have said something way earlier. When I was there, I didn't think it was there really wasn't a great time to have that conversation. Things move so fast. We both experienced it in different ways. You go from hometowns and then you think, okay, I might be going home. And then all of a sudden you're in Iceland and all of a sudden you're the third fantasy suite date. And it's too late to get a conversation. But I also didn't think that I should tell Clayton how to do this. And I guess that was my mentality, was like, I think this will, could prove our compatibility or not. And we have kind of come to the conclusion that I was living with my real world expectations and there's nothing wrong with that. And Clayton adapted to what is, I guess, the process and, dating multiple women. And he, acted in a way that many bachelors before have. And we both agree that there's nothing wrong with like either way we went about the process. But what we could have done better was just have more empathy for each other and be able to understand the other person's perspective while we were in that moment. But we were our minds were living in different realities at that point. And we've since been able to come to the same reality. But when you're there, it's like, it's such a tough environment, and we're just fortunate that we were able to get to the other side and be so happy and confident where we are now.
How was watching the show back? Were you nervous to relive that heated fantasy suite episode? Did you guys learn anything from watching kind of you fight on screen?
I think we both did. I think we learned a lot from our discussions after the show, more than anything. We didn't hold back. We rehashed that entire night on several occasions. And we both could have done better that night. I could have communicated better. You could have communicated better, been, more understanding of my perspective. We both learned so much. And watching it back, was it was sad and it was tough because I could see on Clayton's face, when I brought up that topic, I could just see, I was like, oh my gosh, you can see the devastation in his face and that realization of like kind of coming back down or coming back over to the real world where I was living. And it just broke my heart because I knew it was coming. So it was tough to watch.
And how did you prepare Susie for what she was going to see with the last couple episodes when she wasn't necessarily still involved in everything that was going to play out at the rose ceremony from hell? And your breakup was with Gabby and Rachel.
Oh, that question for me.
How did you prepare Susie? Yeah.
I felt that it was just best to, and we did this right from the start when we started talking after the show, was we opened up our journals because we had really written down everything from the beginning to the end of the journey, and we opened them up and we just read them to each other all the way through. I didn't take out anything. There was a lot of stuff in there, and I wanted her to know this is exactly how it went. These are my inner thoughts. I want you to know, and some of the stuff I'm sure was hard to hear, and it was hard for me to hear some of it too. I mean, she read me how she felt after that night, and she had very, very strong feelings about who she now saw me for, who I was in that moment, and it hurt because I knew I hurt her. I knew that I was out of line. I knew that I attacked her character, and I shouldn't have. But we just read it because we wanted to say, hey, listen, let's make sure there are no surprises, because we're gonna have to watch this back, and we're gonna have millions of people that are gonna also be commenting now, and we cannot allow. We're gonna there's surely going to affect us in some way, but we need to make sure that we're rock solid and that we already know what's coming, so there are no additional surprises that could potentially shake this relationship.
Rachel and Gabby didn't mince words last night. Clayton, did anything surprise you that they said? Maybe did you tell me you love me because you wanted to sleep with me comment?
Yeah, that was a surprising comment. It hurts because for her to feel that way, she's, again, I don't want to take that away from her and say that it was, again, I'm like, no. And so I told her, I said, no. And she said, well, I don't believe it. And I didn't know there's nothing more I could say besides okay at that point. I'm like, you know what? If there's one day down the road that she wants to have a candid conversation and talk more in depth about the entire thing, I would certainly give that to her. I think I do owe it to both of them if they would like to, but if they don't want to hear anything else come out of my mouth, then they don't deserve to give, or they shouldn't feel that they need to give me that ability to explain myself. I was shocked, that she said that, and it hurt that's a question that she seriously is considering. But you know what? I just had to let her know. I'm like, there's not much more I can say. If you don't believe me, you don't believe me. And I don't think there's anything I can say to convince you.
Looking back at everything and how it played out, do you still believe that you were in love with all three of them? Or do you think that maybe it was a caught up in the moment kind of thing?
Yeah, looking back at it all, in those moments, I believed it. I really did believe I was in love with them when I was there on the show. But as I've now taken the time to reflect and look back, I believe that I got to the point where I was falling in love with everybody, but then I got to the point where I was only in love with Susie, and realized that instead of telling these women that I was in love with them, I had fallen. But I only think now, as I look back, you can fall. I only think you can be in love with one person. You can fall for many, but you can only be in love with one. And that's where I made a mistake, is I was confused on the show, and I believed that I was in love with multiple women, but I since have realized that I don't think I was.
You had a ring in your hand for a second there. Were you seriously considering proposing? And how are you guys going to navigate being asked that every time you do an interview by people like me? I had the ring with me. Again, it was very conditional with how is this conversation going to go. To be honest with you, I knew she would show up because I knew it wasn't in her character not to show up. But I was very, very certain she was going to say no to me. I kind of anticipated that. And so I went in there, but I wanted to know, her to know that, hey, I'm for real about this. I really, really do love you. And I would get down on a knee, but I was reading the room. I was waiting to see how she came in, and I could tell by her mood and through her words that I'm like, obviously this will not lead to a proposal. This is going to lead to the end of the line. So, and I was okay. I had come to terms with that. It hurt me, but I knew, I was like, you know what, whatever she tells you, respect it and be thankful that she showed up. How'd you guys land on Virginia Beach?
I live there. I was born there, and I moved away for a long time, and I came back to the area about a couple of years ago, and I'm really happy there. My work is there, and I had a beautiful life before coming on the show. And it's just great that I get to make an addition to it. And Clayton was, before the show, he was ready to, uproot and figure out what's next for him. And he's totally on board to come to Virginia Beach. So we're going to give it a shot.
I love that. Last question, Clayton, you told me back in December that after this show, you will no longer speak in absolutes. Can you tell me, is Susie absolutely the one? And what do you love about her?
Ooh.
What do I love about her? How about let's say that, because again, we've talked about it, and we know like from here on out, like this is a relationship like in the real world where you never know, anything can happen. And we're aware that, we're going to give this every chance that we can. We love each other. And as of right now, we're both very, very happy. But relationships take effort. They are hard at times. And so we know that there's going to be those moments that lie ahead. There's never any guarantee in life. But with all that being said, I am incredibly happy to be with her. I'm so excited to be able to just go get dinner, to go hiking, do all these things with her, travel. And what I love about her the most is that she has such a huge heart, and she is so unselfish. She is so humble. I wish people would have seen more of that. She got so emotional on the show when we did a shopping spree, because she's like, I don't deserve this. And I was just taken aback. I was blown away when she said that, because I was like, you are an incredible woman who doesn't feel like she should be given anything. Like, she just wants to give and give and give to everyone. And it almost feels that she sometimes doesn't want to receive things, because it truly speaks to her character. And I was blown away by that someone as beautiful as her, as loving as she is, just wants to give everyone the world and everything that she has. But I want to be able to give that to her and let her know that, like, I want to give her everything, because she absolutely deserves it, because she is she's like somebody that I've never met. I mean, there are very few people, if any, like her that have the character that she does. And I continue to be impressed day in and day out.
Well, Clayton,
that was sweet.
That was really sweet. It's been a hell of a season, and I appreciate the fact that you've never shied away from answering a tough question. So congratulations, and go enjoy it.
Thank you so much. Nice talking to you.
Bye.